To infinity and beyond!
Welcome aboard Spaceship Earth.
The torque and transmission load data are looking good.
Great. Let's proceed to the rough road tests.
You got it.
Please step away from the cars and stand on the dark area of the platform.
WDW Radio, your information station.
Welcome to show number 21 of the WDW Radio Show for the week of July 1st, 2007, and thanks for tuning in once again. I'm your host, Lou Mongello, and I have a lot of fun segments planned for you this week. My visit to the Walt Disney World rumor mill includes discussion and audio evidencing some possible big changes and improvements to the resort and ADR reservation systems, as well as a possible new addition to Cinderella Castle and the Canada Pavilion and World Showcase. Eric Hollister and I introduced the first of our Walt Disney World Half Marathon Contest challenges, and I announced the winner of our first Where in the World Have You Seen This contest. I announced this next in our 7 Wonders of Walt Disney World series, the Walt Disney World Monorail, and discuss with Jeff Pepper its origins, technology, fun facts, and intangible qualities that make it a true wonder. Fred Block's Magic Meet event is coming up soon, and once again he was kind enough to allow us to hold our DisneyWorldTrivia.com Dream Team Project charity auction to benefit the Make-A-Wish Foundation of America. Pat Whitson joins me to talk about the auction, some of the amazing items and experiences that are included, as well as how the generosity of so many Disney fans will once again help a seriously ill child's wish come true to visit Walt Disney World. Brian Ripper from the All About the Mouse Disney podcast joins me to talk about another best of the best at Walt Disney World, and this time, it's the best pool on property. This week's email segment talks about handheld technology in the parks, July 4th fireworks in Walt Disney World, Adventureland Then and Now, the Walk Around the World bricks, some suggestions for Disney, and so much more. Of course, I'll play more of your voicemails at the end of the show, so sit back, relax, and enjoy this week's episode of the WDW Radio Show.
And now, a trip to the Walt Disney World rumor mill.
We're going to take a relatively quick but very interesting trip, I think, over to the Walt Disney World rumor mill. There's not a lot this week because I am recording early, as I will be away on business for the weekend, so I do need to record this segment earlier. But the first rumor is something that I think is very, very interesting and something that's going to affect probably all of us in the near future if it does come true. I received an email last week from listener Sue, who is SamIam717 on the DisneyWorldTrivia.com forums, about a possible big change and new features coming to Disney based on a survey that they were conducting. This survey that was sent to her, and one that I actually took personally, it does appear as though Disney may be planning to introduce a new reservation system for both not only the resort rooms, but for advanced dining reservations as well. The survey email says, "This survey is about voices, personalities, and first impressions. It's designed to capture your snap decisions about a few personalities. There are only 20 questions, and they expect that it takes about 8 minutes to complete. During the survey, you're going to be asked to listen to different voices. Each voice will speak identical phrases, after which you'll be asked a couple of questions. As you listen to the voices, try to imagine what kind of people these voices belong to. Focus on the personality of each speaker based on the sound of their voice. Think fast. After listening to the voices, try to make your choice as quickly as you can within a second or two. Remember, we're looking for snap decision." The survey was open to only 75 people, which seems somewhat low to me, but it did play a series of voice prompts that asked guests to describe what they were feeling, whether the speakers were helpful, courteous, knowledgeable, gave you that kind of quote-unquote Disney feeling, etc. You were then asked to rate which of the voices seemed to best convey that feeling or demeanor. So what I want to do is I was able to take audio snippets from a bunch of these voices. I'm going to play a bunch of them for you now, just so you get an idea of what they were doing in this survey. Pay close attention, because I'm going to play a couple of variations of the same segment so you can hear the different voices that Disney was trying to use.
Welcome. How can I help you today? Tell me briefly what you're calling about. Like, can I make a reservation? Or I need a golf course tea time. So go ahead. What can I help you with?
Okay, a new reservation. To help me find the best person to book your trip, tell me, have you ever stayed with us before?
Okay, a new reservation. To help me find the best person to book your trip, tell me, have you ever stayed with us before?
I'd love to reserve you a table in our restaurant. First, tell me the date you'd like to come and dine with us.
Guests are invited to check in anytime after 3 p.m. on the day of arrival, and checkout is by noon on the departure day.
So based not only on the questions in the email, but the questions in the survey and what actually the speakers were saying, it really makes me wonder what's next. Will you be able to call in and use voice prompts and voice recognition to make a resort reservations? What about ADRs? If so, will they put into place certain safeguards to prevent some overbooking like we may have talked about some time ago on the show? Now, I was thinking, with the completion of the computer upgrades that will allow for how reservations are going to be made in the future that I spoke about a couple of weeks ago with the 2008 resort rate changes, coupled with the computers in the guest rooms like the Contemporary, what they're doing now, it makes me wonder if there are additional features such as this that Disney is going to begin to roll out. Again, we will pay very close attention to what's going to happen in the future, but it looks like Disney may be putting some of the power to make these reservations and some control of what goes on directly into guests' hands, whether it be via computer, whether it be via telephone. But like I said, we'll definitely pay very close attention in the coming weeks. A couple of the quick rumors about things going on over at the parks. I've received some emails from people saying that they hear that Rock and Roller Coaster is supposed to go down for a rehab in September, from September 2nd through the 30th. But I have not received any confirmation on that. That's a relatively long refurb for an attraction like Rock and Roller Coaster, so I would wonder what, if anything, would change inside. Speaking of attractions being closed for refurbishment, over in World Showcase, Disney's website is reflecting that O Canada, in the Canada Pavilion obviously, will be closed for refurbishment from August 20th through August 24th, 2007. This will likely to be to install the new film, which will assumedly debut on the 25th. We know that there was talk early on in the year about new filming going on up in Canada, so I would assume that that is what's going to take place at this time. Some other rumors coming out of the studios this week include a few new ones, as well as more details about some rumors from some time ago. First, it does appear as though we may be getting a new show at the old ABC Theater in the spring of 2008. Roof work permits that were filed recently that we discussed a couple of weeks ago may just be the first step into filling that empty theater, although no details have come out as to what exactly may be going in. So let the speculation begin. Next, the Disney Stars and Motor Cars Parade appears as though it will be replaced with an updated version of Disneyland's Block Party Bash sometime in March 2008. Young Jedis rejoice, as the Jedi Training Academy will soon be added as a year-round offering starting later on this year, with work on a new stage location commencing later on this month. And for those of us with young kids, and who personally are fans of Playhouse Disney, the Playhouse Disney Live on Stage show looks as though it will be getting the rumored changes to the show's lineup, with the very popular Little Einsteins and Mickey Mouse Clubhouse characters replacing our good friends Bear in the Big Blue House, Stanley, and the Book of Pooh. Across the plaza in the animation courtyard, the Voyage of the Little Mermaid show appears as though it's going to get some type of refurbishment in the fall of 2007, although no details as to the length and or type of change is evident as yet. I should be clear, though, it does not appear as though this is going to be replaced. There has been rumors for a long time that the show may be taken out because there is going to be a show opening up on Broadway. That is not the rumor that I'm hearing at this point, but again, I'll keep you updated as I hear more. Heading down Mickey Avenue, the Sorcerer Mickey meet and greet may be moving during the construction of Toy Story Mania to a permanent location. And this time, it's going to be in the Magic of Disney Animation building, whose entrance is also at the back of the animation courtyard. This new venue is expected to open before the busy holiday season, and if these rumors are true, it'll have a huge backdrop depicting the entire Sorcerer's Apprentice scene from Fantasia. Now, this rumor has also fueled more in the whole studio's name change game rumor saga. While I am very, very suspect of a complete change of the name of the studios to something like the Disney Pixar Studios, recent filings as well as the addition of this previous rumor starts to lend credibility to the rumor that Mickey Avenue will instead be renamed Pixar Place. Now, I'm looking more into this part of the rumor and will continue to update you as I hear more. Finally, over at the Magic Kingdom, it appears as though another abandoned, at least to guests at this point, venue may be reopening in the future. Saddle up, partners, as the Diamond Horseshoe Saloon in Frontierland may be opening during peak times of this year as an added buffet dining location, much as what they've done over at the Noodle Station in Tomorrowland. Now, I will look for more information on this as it comes out, but look for a possible opening during this upcoming holiday season. But remember, if it does open, it may not be all day or even every day if this rumor is true. There's also a very, very unofficial rumor that I'm trying to get additional confirmation on as soon as possible, and that is that Cinderella Castle may be getting a little added decoration this holiday season. The rumor is that hundreds of lights will be added to the exterior, with work on the castle to install the lights going on from September until November, when the holiday season kicks off with the first Very Merry Christmas party. Again, I want to stress this is a very, very new, very unofficial rumor. I will continue to update you on this as I hear anything more. And as always, keeping with the show's interactive theme, if you hear any rumors or want to discuss anything, by all means send them in to me at lou@wdwradio.com. Call the voicemail at 206-202-4WDW, or comment on anything that we discussed this week in the forums at DisneyWorldTrivia.com. For this week's Best of the Best at Walt Disney World segment, I wanted to bring on another friend of the show. He's the host, or I should say now co-host, of the All About the Mouse podcast with Jonathan Dichter, and that is Brian Ripper. Brian, welcome to the show.
Hi, Lou. How you doing?
Good, very well, thanks. Brian and I had a chance to meet down at Walt Disney World a couple of months ago. I've actually been on Brian's show where we talked about the marathon. Let's not talk about my training, please. But yeah, Brian's got a great podcast over there. Brian, real quickly, tell everybody kind of what your show's about.
Oh, well, basically the name of the show is called All About the Mouse, and for anybody who may not have heard yet, I'm thrilled to announce that Jonathan Dichter will be joining me as co-host beginning sometime in July. We haven't set what the exact date is going to be. I don't know if it's going to be the first Friday in July, but basically July. Look forward to Jonathan coming over. And basically it's just about Disney. We try to keep the shows somewhat short.
Like mine.
Yeah. Well, I know everybody has to get time to listen to Lou's podcast, so we try to leave enough time in there for that. So we try to keep them, somewhat short, and basically we'll have Disney news at the top of the segment, and then we usually have a featured topic each week, something that we'll talk about, and sometimes we'll bring on Lou if he's good, and
if my check's clear.
Yeah, bring on other people. So. But we have guests stop by the show all the time. It's a lot of fun. It's cool.
Cool. Well, I'll definitely put a link up in the show notes to the All About the Mouse website. But we're here to talk about one of Walt Disney World's best of the best. And when we started talking about this segment, there was something that instantly came to your mind that I am in complete and utter agreement. And that's the best pool on property. And I'm sure people have their favorites. I've heard everything from the pool over at Coronado Springs to Caribbean Beach to Pop Century to the Polynesian. But I think we're in agreement that what we feel is the best pool on property for a variety of reasons is Stormalong Bay at Disney's Yacht and Beach Club. Brian,
yes,
go ahead. Tell us why you think it qualifies.
Definitely. I agree with you 100%, Lou. And I'm glad you had me come on and do this feature because I am not a pool person when it comes to Walt Disney World. I mean, there's so much to see, so much to do. Who has time to go to the pool? You're going commando style. You're up
Right.
at 6 a.m. You're coming in at 1 o'clock in the morning. Who has time to really go to the pool? But my wife and I were down on vacation, and my sister and her family actually joined us last month. And so, reluctantly, I was dragged out to the pool. And I got to tell you, I had a blast. I mean, this pool really just kind of sold me on Disney pools. I mean, and I guess I really shouldn't say pool because it's really a series of pools, and it's shared by the Yacht and Beach Club. And the things that I really enjoy about it, number one, the very first thing I did when I got there is, my sister was like, you got to try the slide. So I was like, okay. So the slide is very well themed. It looks like basically a shipwreck. And so go up to the top of the slide, which is a pretty big slide for a hotel pool. I'll say that now. I don't know the exact height of it, but probably somewhere about maybe 20 to 30 feet high.
Mm-hmm.
And so I go down the slide, and I come out and splash in the water, and I set my feet down, and I'm like, holy cow, there is real sand in the bottom of this pool. And I tell you, that just really impressed me. I was like, wow, this is really neat. They've got sand in the bottom of the pool.
Yeah, and I think that you hit it right on the head, is that trying to qualify this as a pool is a bit of a misnomer. It really is almost like a free water park. I mean, it really rivals a water park because there's so much. First of all, it's not a single little pool with maybe a little kiddie pool and a hot tub. It's 3 acres, big. There's, bridges, there's kiddie pools. It's sand bottom. I mean, it's super soft sand bottom. There's 0 entry areas. You mentioned the slide, and we should talk a little about it. It's the Albatross, and it looks like a beached ship that is beached on Crescent Lake, which is really across the walkway, across the street from the pool area itself. I mean, you kind of have to walk across the the promenade in order to get there, to climb up, and it's absolutely amazing. I mean, very, very, a lot of fun, good for kids, good for adults, and it kind of drops you into the deep sand bottom pool.
I agree, and you hit the nail on the head there with you're saying good for kids and good for adults too, because there's a couple things that other things I thought were really neat. Number one, they've got kind of like a whirlpool area, which is kind of a circular area set aside in a pool, and they basically make a whirlpool. I mean, you can kind of let go, and the water will just kind of carry you around and around in a circle, which was entertaining for me, I gotta say. And the other area that I really enjoyed was the sinking sands area. Mm-hmm. There's an area of the pool, like I mentioned, there's sand in the bottom of the pool. And I'm not quite sure how they do this, but I think maybe they do it just by kind of squirting water up underneath the floor in the sand there. But basically, periodically you'll just kind of be standing there, and all of a sudden your leg will kind of sink down, maybe a foot into the sand there. And I gotta say, I sat there and played around in that for about half an hour. I mean, easily amused.
Yeah, and there's a lazy river. You could just kind of get on a little inner tube and kind of float around the lazy river. There's 3 quiet pools. There's one for the yacht club, kind of on the far end of the resort, near a little garden area. There's a beach club pool, also with a jacuzzi, that's on the opposite far end, that faces Crescent Lake. Beautiful views of the lake area. There's another pool by the beach club villas, which kind of faces a smaller lake. And, actually became so popular that about 10 years ago, they actually had to put a fence up around Stormalong Bay because so many non-resort guests were coming over just to use the pool. Why go to Typhoon Lagoon? Why go to Blizzard Beach when they have a free pool area like this right here with so much stuff to do?
Yeah, and now they just do the wristbands. Now, I mean, I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, this is the only pool I've ever had to go to where you need a wristband to be able to swim in the pool.
Right, and there's no cost. All you need to do is show them your room key in order to get, you can show them to one of the lifeguards. And one thing we should say, too, one thing I noticed was there's an abundance, almost an overabundance of lifeguards. They do an awesome job because the pool is so big. It's actually the largest sand bottom pool in the world. There's 750,000 gallons of water in there, making it the largest sand bottom pool in the world.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's pretty neat.
Yeah, and I think it's great for kids. I think it's great for adults. Because of what you can do. You can rent, inner tubes. You can rent those kind of noodles so kids can go in. There are little kiddie area pools. If you have real, young toddlers, things like that. There's a playground for kids right near Stormalong Bay. You can, and again, this is odd coming from me because I've always said time spent in the park, not in the parks is time wasted. But the Stormalong Bay pool and everything that surrounds it really is like a day at the water park because there's so much to experience there. There's also, I'm drawing a blank. Oh, there's Hurricane Hannah's, the grill, where if you want to get something to eat, they also have frozen adult beverages to kind of help cool things off as well.
And the frozen drinks there were very good too, but I just got to say that.
Again, for research purposes only, I know that's how I imbibe, but there's actually a lot of stuff too, and this is almost kind of a joint hidden treasure because there's so much to do in and around the pool as well, and I think this is what a lot of guests might not realize or overlook. There's everything from the Albatross Treasure Cruise, which is a kiddie pirate cruise, and that's something that's about $28, $29, and we'll talk about that probably in a separate segment. But there's all kinds of things that go on throughout the day and the evening for kids and adults. Things like a Kids Island Groove Party, where there's a little dance party. There's Uno tournaments. If you're a big Uno fan, I used to love playing Uno. There's Uno tournaments.
I missed out on the Uno tournament? You gotta be kidding.
Yep, those go on almost every day. They have, at 8 o'clock at night, they have campfire sing-alongs on the shores of Crescent Lake, on the beach right on Crescent Lake. Again, these are all free. 9 o'clock right afterwards, they have movies under the stars. You stay right there. They'll show things like The Incredibles, Pirates of the Caribbean, things like that. They do arts and crafts. They have dodgeball games. They have bingos. They have contests called What's in Your Beach Bag. And if you're just by the pool area, they have this kind of contest in kind of the late afternoon, and where something in your beach bag, just a random item, could win you prizes. They give you all kinds of prizes. They have So You Think You Know Disney trivia contests. No, I have not actually tried. Probably because if I lose, all my credibility goes right out any credibility I might have had beforehand. What else? Connect Four tournaments, treasure hunts, soccer, junior fishing excursions, all kinds of things like that. There's a whole list of recreation activities you can get from the concierge over at the pool area, over at the Yacht and Beach Club. So you really could make a day or an afternoon. And again, because location is everything, you could be at Epcot, you can walk back to your hotel, spend a couple hours relaxing by the pool, do some of these things. If your kids have some of this excess energy, they can play, they can run, they can do all that kind of stuff and swim. You can walk right back to Epcot for World Showcase, for Illuminations, for dinner. I just think, without question, Stormalong Bay ranks as the best of the best pool.
Yeah, speaking of location, or you can do what I did, if your spouse is okay with this, whereas your wife goes to the pool and then you go to Epcot and, kind of do a little geeking out there at Epcot.
But you have to be careful because often they sneak out to the spa, and that's the killer right there.
With your credit card, yes.
Exactly. Yes. Take away her room key.
Well, you were kind of talking about food, and I think it should be noted also that while it's not really considered part of the pool area, Beaches and Cream is just right there.
You read my mind.
Amazing. I did not try the ice cream. I was trying to be good and keeping with good standings with training for the marathon and everything.
I asked you not to go there. You got him.
Yeah, you were really my my motivator there.
Oh, great, you're in trouble then.
don't get the kitchen sink. Don't get it. But it looked really good. I got to say that.
I'm not a huge ice cream person, but I think Beaches and Cream is the best place for dessert on property, and I'm probably giving away another best of the best at some point. But there's something there called a No Way Jose, which has vanilla ice cream and peanut butter chips and chocolate chips and it's awesome. It's awesome. So what you do is you go commando style. You go all day. When Illuminations is over, you take your time wandering around World Showcase when it empties out. Go to Beaches and Cream. Go get your dessert. Now remember, although the main pool at Stormalong Bay does have regular operating hours, the quiet pools are normally open 24 hours a day. So you go, you have your ice cream, you relax a little bit, wait your half hour so you don't get a stomachache, and then you can go in the quiet pool late at night and kind of just unwind from the day.
Lou, you just mapped out my night before the half marathon right there. Load up on ice cream, go swim in the pool, get absolutely no sleep, then go run 13.1 miles.
I got to ask Mike Scopa if the No Way Jose is good pre-marathon food or not.
Why not?
Aren't you supposed to load up on pasta, not ice cream? Something like, well, anyway.
Or fried chicken, too. That works, too.
So, that's in kind of overly excited, I guess, way of talking about what we think is Stormalong Bay. I think it just really has everything, going for it. I think the landscaping is beautiful. I think the pool is beautiful. The spas, the jacuzzis, the pirate ship across the way, the views of Crescent Lake. I could go on and on and on. It's something that you definitely have to experience. Again, you have to be a guest at the Yacht or Beach Club. You can't pool hop if you are coming from anywhere else, unless maybe one of the other main pools at your hotel is closed, but they'll let you know ahead of time. But absolutely wonderful for all those reasons and so many more. I'll put some more information up about the Yacht and Beach Club and Stormalong Bay on this week's show notes. But I want to thank Brian Ripper from the All About the Mouse Disney podcast for coming on and talking about this week's best of the best at Walt Disney World.
Thank you very much, Lou. I was glad to be here.
We'll have to... I'll see you at the pool in January.
Definitely. And Beaches and Cream, too. You'll be there, too, right?
You got it. No Way Jose's are on me.
All right. Sounds good.
I got to edit that part out, but thanks again, Brian.
All right. Good night, Lou.
Honoring greatness in imagination and the magic that enthralls us all, it's time for the 7 Wonders of Walt Disney World.
It's time for the next 7 wonders of Walt Disney World. And while we're going to save the cast members for another day, we're going to talk about another one that, especially lately, has really received a high number of mentions from listeners and readers and members over at the DisneyWorldTrivia.com forum. So Jeff Pepper from 2719hyperion.blogspot.com is going to join me once again as we celebrate this next entry on the list. Jeff, welcome back.
Thanks, Lou. Glad to be here.
All right, so I'm going to ask you and the listeners to figuratively close your eyes once again and think of Walt Disney World. Now, chances are, if we were right in our naming of Cinderella Castle as one of the 7 wonders, that was the first thing that may have come to mind. Although, Jeff, you may have thought of Julie from the Backstage Magic Show, but after the castle, one of Walt Disney World's most lasting images and icons is not really an attraction, maybe per se, building, show, or distant memory. It's something that most guests see and experience every day, really enjoy for the most part, but maybe don't stop to consider its importance to Walt Disney World since its very beginning, and I'm talking about the monorail.
The monorail next to Cinderella's castle, especially when you look at the history of Walt Disney World, and its probably first 2 decades or so, the monorail was probably second only to the castle as probably the iconic representation of the place.
And I think that's why it qualifies, and I think that's what most people, when they emailed me or when they left a voicemail, that's what they said. Because it's not really just a transportation system like a bus or a tram. It really is an icon. And after Cinderella Castle, that's probably is what you think. And then if you see a monorail, you instantly think of Walt Disney World. And, Walt once said that, I don't want the public to see the world they live in while they're at the park. I want them to feel as if they're in another world. And I think that the monorail actually, literally and figuratively, accomplishes that on so many levels. It transports you from the real world into the magical world of Disney. I think I consider the attraction as one of my favorite things. And I think much of what makes up a lot of these 7 wonders are the intangible qualities each possesses. The monorail is no exception. It's not the fastest ride or the wildest ride. Sometimes it's not even the most comfortable ride in Walt Disney World. At night it's crowded and noisy and there's a lot of hot, tired people. But the monorail itself is an icon and it is very important. And I think we should talk about the history and some of the technology and changes and some of the fun facts and those intangibles that make this a true wonder of Walt Disney World. So let's kind of go back, Jeff, and we'll talk about the history, because despite what a lot of people, I think, believe, Walt Disney and his Imagineers did not invent the monorail. They were actually used way back in the late 1800s. Back as early as 1878, there was a steam-powered monorail system in California and an electric monorail system used in Long Island in 1892.
And actually, the monorail, that came to ultimately be in Disneyland in 1959 was originated in Germany, correct?
Right, in Wuppertal.
Yeah, Disney got together with the Allweg company of Cologne, Germany, and developed the monorail that ultimately was installed in Disneyland at the end of that decade.
Right, and then later on, obviously, Walt Disney World opened in 1971 with a fleet of upgraded monorails. These were known as the Mark IV monorail trains, and they were also designed by Allweg, where they were built in Florida by the Martin Marietta Company. And originally there was 10 cars in the original fleet. That was increased to 12 in 1977 when they added the Lime and the Coral monorails. But
now, do you know all the colors?
I'm going to say yes, because I have my notes in front of me. I could probably fudge my way through even without looking at my at my notes, but to sound like I know what I'm talking about, I'm saying absolutely I know all 12 in alphabetical order. So
okay, very good. I'll let you off the hook.
Thank
okay,
you.
Go on.
But technologically speaking, I think what really impresses me about the monorails, and I'm sure 99% of the people don't look at this, and yes, I stand there taking pictures, are the tracks. And the original monorail system had 2 tracks, and they circled Bay Lake, and they went from the Polynesian Magic Kingdom Contemporary to the Ticket and Transportation Center in that order. That was the resort loop, and the express loop obviously went just from the TTC over to the Magic Kingdom. There's also, I should kind of qualify that, there's also a spur from the loops between the Magic Kingdom and the Contemporary that leads over to the maintenance shop behind the Magic Kingdom. That's kind of off the express loop, and it crosses over. And if you've ever seen that kind of switching take place, it's actually pretty neat.
They were doing that once on this last trip when I was down in May. They were pulling one of the monorails off the track.
Yeah, and if you're looking to get back to your hotel and you get stuck behind one of those things, it's not necessarily fun because it does take a few minutes, but it's pretty neat to watch, either, especially if you can get into the front of the car and see the switch and take place. But the beams are really an engineering feat. The trains actually run, they have rubber tires underneath, and they kind of run on a track, which is actually this 26 wide beam. These beams were built in Oregon, of all places, and they were shipped by truck to Florida. And there's lots of great pictures you can find online of these flatbed trucks taking these, up and down the highways to Florida. They actually have a styrofoam core, and that's wrapped up by steel and concrete, which makes them relatively lightweight and very efficient. There's more than 400 beams of varying heights, and depending on where they were going to be located, in order to follow the contour to land. Some are, obviously much higher. And do you know where the highest point of any monorail track is?
I want to say, this is just going to be a really educated guess, I want to say it's on the Epcot line.
If the Epcot line were to go to the Contemporary, yeah, the highest beam is about 65 feet above the ground, and that's right at the entrance exit to the Contemporary Resort.
We'll just make sure we edit that out in post-production.
Sorry, it's staying in. Anyway. Well, speaking of going to the resorts, and obviously the Contemporary is very unique in that the monorail passes through it, and that's one of the reasons why I love and have such an affinity for the Contemporary. But it was actually going to be designed to visit some of the other resorts that were never built, like the Asian and Mediterranean resorts, which obviously never happened.
And the Persian.
That's right. And obviously, once the Grand Floridian was added, they created a monorail station to there as well. But in 1982, obviously it was time to expand and extend the monorail for a 4-mile-long third leg from the Transportation and Ticket Center over to Epcot, which was going to be opening up later on that year.
And then I guess the next big benchmark was in 1989, and I remember going through this because that's when I was at a point in time when I was traveling to the parks quite frequently. And it was in 89 that they switched over to the Mark 6 models, which was a dramatic change for the actual physical monorail. They were all seated, and if you remember, each door that opened on the monorail basically took you into a row of seats. And the Mark 6s basically changed to as they exist today, which had the benches on each end of the compartment, but then also had standing room as well. And it increased the height a considerable amount there. And I just remember very distinctly over that course of time as they were switching out, going from transitioning from the old ones to the new ones.
Yeah, the thing I remember most about the old Mark IVs was how they had to the cast members actually had to walk up to them and close each and every door on the monorails manually.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
For some silly reason, the sound and watching the guys kind of walk by and close them sticks in my mind.
For shunk.
For shunk. For shunk, if you want to call it a shunk sound. But yeah, the Mark IVs definitely, they definitely, Disney got their dollar's worth from those, because each of them traveled about 67,500 miles per year. There was about 10 million miles of travel on all of them, and they had a reliability rate of 99.9% in an 18-hour day, which is just absolutely amazing. Now, although the original Mark IV trains were built by Martin Marietta, the new Mark VIs were going to be built by Bombardier, which at the time was the largest mass transit manufacturer in North America. And Disney really did a very exhaustive search internationally to find out who would be able to build this next generation and fleet of monorail vehicles. And like you said, they started in 1989. In addition to just being newer, there were a lot of benefits to them. There was a 30% increase in guest capacity. The trains were taller. Not that was ever an issue for me. There was now seats as well as standing room. So if you could actually stand up and grab the pole. Obviously, the sliding door systems were much more convenient for both guests as well as for cast members. They were better suspension, better air conditioning, much needed, and the new trains actually exceeded U.S. standards for things like flammability, smoke, and toxicity. So the first of the new trains, which was actually Monorail Blue, little trivia fact there, that arrived on Disney property on June 8th, 1989. The latest one to be installed was in 1993, and that was Monorail Coral. Each train has 6 cars, and they're permanently coupled with articulated joints in between them. And actually, speaking of upgrades to them, they're currently undergoing an upgrade right now. There's some minor modifications that have been going on probably over the past year or so, both to the guest areas as well as the pilot's cockpit. So some of the design changes that are taking place right now, and we're not going to talk about the new Year of a Million Dreams paint job, but there's a new ride control system, and that was started to be installed early this year, and in the pilot. And what there used to be was kind of a joystick control that the pilots would use, and now it's a touchscreen called an LMCU control system that they use. And from what I understand, the monorails actually run on Windows, believe it or not. So, and inside the monorails.
XP or Vista?
I'm sure it's definitely not Vista, but anyway. But, one thing we didn't mention real quick before we get back to some of the upgrades that are going on is people say, well, where do they put the monorails at night? When the monorails aren't in operation, where do they put them? And originally there were only 10 monorails that were built and planned for. So when they added the Coral and Lime to make it 12, they didn't have enough room in the storage and maintenance facilities behind the park. And you can kind of follow as you kind of go towards the Contemporary. You can see the roundhouse, even though it's square, where they store them. So because there's 2 monorails a night have to stay outside. And what they do is they make sure they don't keep one monorail outside the roundhouse for more than 2 nights in a row. So they'll keep it maybe in the Grand Floridian or the Polynesian, or leaving dock it inside the Contemporary, especially if the weather's bad and things like that. But the other changes that are going on that I alluded to were things that we've talked about on the show in the news and rumor section. The guest seating area inside, and the removal of the jump seats in the middle, and the carpet's been taken out, kind of cleaning it up and keeping it a little fresher inside. So a couple little fun facts, and we're going to talk about some of those intangibles that we mentioned earlier. The Disney World monorail system is the most heavily traveled passenger monorail system in the world. It carries an average of about 150,000 passengers every day with a maximum capacity of 200,000. Each year they transport more than 50 million people, and since Walt Disney World opened in 1971, has carried over 1 billion. Let's see, if a monorail breaks down, what do? Do you get out and push? No, they actually have these tractors that come out. And if you've ever seen this is actually pretty neat. There's 3 different tractors that can come out and basically tow these monorails back to the roundhouse. Now you say, well, what happens if there's a power failure? You don't have to worry. The tractors actually run on diesel. So if the power does go down, the monorail does get stuck, they can come out and tow it back. Jeff, remember when they put Monorail Red up for sale on eBay a few years ago?
Yeah, was that when Disney just started doing their auctions, or did a private owner have it?
Well, I remember it went up for sale at one point, and somebody actually by the name of Chip Young from Georgia won it. It was Monorail Red. After it was decommissioned in January of '93, I think they put it up, and then it showed up on eBay again. And here's a quick little funny story. I was telling my dad about it. Obviously, all the times I went as a kid with my parents, and I just have real fond memories about going on there. So we were away, and I fired up the internet and I showed it to him, and the high bid at that point was like $15,000, and I know it had been up once before, and the bidding had gone up to like 60, but the reserve wasn't met. So we're kidding around. He's like, "Oh, put a bid on it. Go ahead and put a bid on it just for fun." I was like, "Dad, this is not, this is no joke. This is eBay and blah." He says, "Don't worry about it. Whatever." He goes, "Put a bid in for like $30,000." I'm like, "Okay." I was like, "Just so you know, if I win, forget half. You're gonna have to kind of cover this for me for a while." So I did. I bid $30,000.01, and I was the high bidder for like 4 days. So what was started to be a joke, and my wife thought was kind of cute at first, ended up not being all that funny. She's like, "We have a kid on the way, and we live in a condo. Where are you going to put a monorail?" So I'm like, "Dad, you got my back with the whole monorail thing and everything." But the bidding ended up going to like 70-something thousand, and I think It ended up selling for much later. But for a long time, and I think it's still there, it was out over at Mouse Surplus in Orlando. And I've actually seen it. I've been inside the monorail red cab. And it's just the front car, but it's exactly the way it was. And the control panel's there and everything's there. And, again, it begs the question, what do you do? And I'm like, I don't know. We can have, make it like picnic tables inside and, eat outside in the monorail. But that would be the ultimate collectible, assuming money and space was no object.
So, but you got to figure that, the other 10 of them are somewhere,
Yeah, you don't...
in somebody's backyard. I mean,
well, they did sell some of them they were actually used in Las Vegas for some time. They sold them to Bally's, and they used them at the time, the new Las Vegas monorail system. They've since been decommissioned from there as well, and they've upgraded to a much newer system. But yeah, that's where a few of them had gone. I think it was... I think they sold Lime and... I don't remember the other one that they sold that was out there actually being used. But yeah, who knows? Who knows where the other ones are at this point? But I remember seeing the picture of the guy that literally had it just sitting in his farm. Just sitting in the middle of his farm, doing nothing, ostensibly. So, but, again, I would love to have a monorail theoretically. And I guess it's because of those intangibles that we were talking about. And that's why it really qualifies as a wonder.
Well, what's interesting is if you go back to Disneyland, and you had the monorail in Disneyland at 59, and it's still running there today. But when you look at the overall Disney theme park kind of mythology and the iconic images and everything like that, it really wasn't until Disney World where the actual concept of the monorail really took on this kind of really iconic status. And I think there's a lot to do with it. I think The monorail at Disneyland is very a part of Tomorrowland. It was a ride until it was ultimately, later extended to the Disneyland Hotel. But it was relatively low to the ground, and it really didn't have the scope of the Disney World version. And what I mean is you have the whole phase one of Disney World, going around Bay Lake and the Seven Seas Lagoon. And the monorail is integral to that whole system, to that whole infrastructure there. And when you combine that with it going through the Contemporary Resort, that's where it becomes so legendary. I just remember very distinctly at the opening credits of the Disney Wonderful World of Disney show in the 1970s, they show pictures of the castle at Disneyland. They show characters running around, in that kind of filmed montage. But one of the key images they show from Disney World is the monorail going through the Contemporary Resort. And I think that in and of itself was when, especially back in the 70s and early 80s, when families and kids were going, that's when you say the monorail was an attraction in and of itself. When it goes through the Contemporary Resort, that is a moment in time. That is, when you first do that, your first visit, that is just something very, very special.
Yeah, between being inside the monorail and especially when you're on the express loop and you're kind of just flying through it, or if you're sitting down at Chef Mickey's or the Concourse State House and that very distinct sound of the monorail running overhead, or if you stay in the tower and look down and see the monorails going through, there's something about that. There's some sort of feeling that gives you that you don't get anywhere else, and I think that's exactly what you're trying to. Right,
and I think too, if anybody is any kind of science fiction, Star Trek, Star Wars, fan or whatever. When you just said, when you're sitting in a restaurant or walking through the Grand Concourse of, the Contemporary, and the monorail passes through it for a moment, you feel like you're in the future. You feel like you are in that city of the future that you just can't find anywhere else, in the United States.
Well, that's really what Walt wanted. The monorail here, like you said, unlike Disneyland, really was meant to be a transportation system, and it also was going to be planned to be part of Epcot, the city. That was really what Walt's big dream was, as we know that. And Walt was very concerned about environmental problems and problems with transportation and pollution and congestions. And that's some of the things that he wanted to get rid of in his future utopian-style city. So, to that end, he actually designed this transportation lobby, which was going to be hidden underground beneath this giant 30-story hotel. So, sort of like the Contemporary, these monorails, instead of going through it, would actually go under it. And this terminal would keep these sort of transportation system out of place, but one of the systems that would be in there was a high-speed monorail for the rapid transit kind of going over the long distances, and the second was going to be the Wedway People Mover, which was going to kind of go through some of the shorter shuttles back and forth to shopping and schools and things like that. But all these things would travel below the pedestrian level. So he really was almost testing it for the future for what he was going to have over in Epcot.
It's a magical experience. I just very much go back to my first visit in 1973, and just the monorail also really in a way represents anticipation. It was, you park your car, you ride the tram, and then you get on the monorail, and then it is that trip from the Ticket and Transportation Center to the Magic Kingdom, and along the way you're looking out the window trying to see the castle. It was a moment that was just all about just this building excitement. And it's still, 25, 30 years later, it's still, when I ride the monorail to the Magic Kingdom, there's still that sense of, here we go, we're on our way to the Magic Kingdom, and it's just a lot of excitement. And also, why don't we actually throw in a bit of a hidden treasure within our Seven Wonders segment?
Sure.
This is no big secret, but it's kind of, I think a lot of people out there still don't realize that they can do it, and that is the very fun thing of riding in the front of the monorail. You can pretty much do it as long as you're willing to be patient, and it's just always a matter of just heading up to the front station or the front, queue area and asking, and they even usually have the rail set up to go in that way. But especially the ride from the Ticket and Transportation Center to Epcot, and where you go around the loop through Future World, is really something to see, because you get a very, very great vantage point when you're up there in the cockpit.
Yeah.
And at the end, they hand you your monorail co-pilot's license.
That's right. And you get a different experience going through day and night, and taking that trip, especially when you go through Epcot and you kind of go around Spaceship Earth into Future World, and during the holiday times when they have all the lights on and the things like that's really something, pretty spectacular. But you know what? I think what I found and what I, believe it or not, have a tough time doing is almost articulating what it is about the monorail, because I received so many emails about it and so many posts, but they all kind of said the same thing, and they couldn't really describe why it was. They wanted to plug the monorail, and they said what an icon it was, and everybody talked about it being something more special, and it was their favorite attraction, and it's not the fastest and it's most exciting, and I'm paraphrasing many of the emails that I have written out here. And somebody even says, I can't think of the exact reason to nominate the monorail other than just the strong impression it leaves. And honestly, who doesn't go to Walt Disney World and ride it? There's monorails in other places, but none as distinct in Disney's. They talked about Walt's vision, about modernizing the transportation system. But I think that's true. I think we all probably acknowledge that it is one of the Seven Wonders, arguably, but have a tough time saying what it is about that experience that leaves such a lasting impression.
I think it's just one other aspect that just takes you out of the real world and really makes you feel that you're somewhere special.
And that the whole, and I'm going to butcher the Spanish language here, but the whole, por favor, manténganse alejado de we all know it. We all know it. Right. And it means so much to us. And I'm sure for many people, that's probably their first introduction into the Spanish language.
And again, we would be remiss in not acknowledging a very big part of the monorail is the Jack Wagner narrations. Jack Wagner, as Jonathan, I believe, profiled in one of the earlier episodes, was literally the voice of Disneyland and Disney World up until his passing in I think it was in the late 90s. He is this very distinct. I mean, when I think of the monorail and I think of those narrations, I mean, a few years ago, Disney in their Disney Forever CD kiosks, they made his monorail narrations available that were from that initial first couple years. And it just brought back such incredible memories from there, because he's talking about the water ski show and he's talking about all the different lands. And his voice was so distinct and so welcoming and so friendly. And that is still the voice you hear doing the Spanish, please stay clear of the doors.
Ladies and gentlemen, as you board, please move all the way across your car to make room for everyone. For those of you standing, please hold on to the handrails and stay clear of the doors.
Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas.
As you board, please continue moving across your car to make room for everyone.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, we're entering the vacation kingdom of the world. Today, you'll be seeing what we call Phase 1, which stretches more than 3 miles east to west and 2 miles north to south. But that's just the beginning. We have many exciting plans for the future. Walt Disney World covers 43 square miles. That's about twice the size of the island of Manhattan.
Welcome aboard the Walt Disney World Express Monorail, our highway in the sky to the Magic Kingdom. For those of you standing, please hold on to the handrails throughout our journey and stay clear of the doors. For the comfort of others, no smoking, please. Thank you.
Yeah, I was very disappointed when they updated a little bit, and I know Corey Burton did some great voice work, and some other people did some great voice work, and fortunately, some of the original Jack Wagner, because that voice just resonates in your mind, and if you close your eyes and you think about it, you can hear it, and it's so distinctly a part of the monorail experience. Yeah, that voice is just one of those childhood memories that I have, and you know, I'd be lying if I didn't say that when I get on the monorail, and when I first get to Disney, and the first time you hear it, it can't help but bring a smile to your face.
Yeah, it really brings back the nostalgia, especially of those first 10 to 15 years that the park was open.
You know, talking about being remiss and not saying something. Well, one thing we should talk about, too, have been rumors about the monorail that have gone on for a number of years. The big rumor really is that they would be expanding the monorail system to include either MGM, going through the Swan and the Dolphin. There's been a long-standing urban legend, myth, rumor, whatever you want to call it. If you look at the Swan and Dolphin buildings, in the center is a black square. And that black square is supposed to designate the area of the building that they would carve out so that a monorail could go right through the center of the building, much like the Contemporary. From my understanding is that that's not true. It's an aesthetic thing. It's not a, okay, guys, here's the blueprint, here's the plan, here's where you basically cut out the center of the building so a monorail could pass by.
Yeah, actually, the only reference in all the reading that I've done to an actual fairly reliable source about, talking about monorail expansion was Jeff Curdy in the book Since the World Began, that was a history of Walt Disney World that was published, I believe, during its 25th anniversary. He made mention that in the early going there were future plans then to connect the monorail possibly to Lake Buena Vista, where at that time they were building the shopping village that ultimately evolved into the marketplace in downtown Disney. And that's the only reference I've ever seen of an actual non-kind of sort of unsubstantiated rumor of some type of, expansion.
Yeah, connecting it to the other theme parks has probably just been something that many of us have dreamed about. I mean, you have to understand, too, the amount of dollars you're talking about, not only just to build the stations, but, back in 1982 dollars, it was about $1 million a mile to build to build a monorail track itself, not even talking about the monorails. And you're right about going to downtown Disney, and there was actually concept art that I remember seeing of the monorail going down. Because remember, too, that area is going to be a residential community, so they wanted to tie that all together. Again, part of Walt's grand vision of making Epcot the city and everything else that was going to surround it interconnected using these kind of transportation systems. So would I love to see a monorail to Disney's Animal Kingdom? I think that would be awesome. Do I think it's ever going to happen? Probably not, at least maybe in our lifetime, or at least probably not in the next, couple of decades before you see something like that take place.
Yeah, I think that, when you really boil it down and you say that, everybody was talking about just really not being able to put your finger on it exactly, but at the same time, it's interesting that, if you were sitting in the psychoanalyst chair and you were doing word association, like you said, monorails have been around, predating Disney by a long time, and the term monorail has been around for quite a long time. But if you do say monorail, I would bet that 9 chances out of 10, the person is going to respond by saying Disney.
Right. And when you say Disney, when you say Walt Disney World, many people are going to instantly think monorail. I think monorail after, maybe after the castle and again, Julie in your case, but Pecos Bill in my case. But yeah, like I said, the overwhelming number of responses talked about it in that intangible sense, as opposed to an engineering feat or talking about the structures themselves or anything like that. It's that intangible quality, that nostalgic quality. So that really is what makes it one of the true 7 wonders of Walt Disney World. And Jeff, thank you for coming on again and exploring next in the series. We have a few more to go, including the cast members that we're going to do kind of a different kind of show on, so we can profile some of the things that people had sent in for that. But if you have your own monorail thoughts and memories and recollections and feelings about whether you think it is or is not one of the 7 wonders, by all means, still feel free to weigh in. You can email the show or call on the show or post on the forums at DisneyWorldTrivia.com. And of course, make sure you go and head out and check out Jeff's blog over at 2719hyperion.blogspot.com. It's a lot of fun. Jeff definitely knows his stuff and puts a great positive spin on all things Disney.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
It's time to announce the winner of our very first Where in the World Have You Seen This contest. In the past, I've done a number of Where in the World Have You Heard This contest, where I've played audio clues from Walt Disney World attractions and shows and asked you to identify them. Well, we thought it was going to be fun this time to give you 3 photo clues that I posted over at the forums at DisneyWorldTrivia.com. Didn't think they were all that hard, but then again, I forgot what a true geek I am. If you paid attention and you went back to the forums to look at the pictures, you actually will see that I posted a hint at one point under the clues for what I thought was probably the toughest one, which was the first. And the clue was, not everything that's Chinese can be found in China. And that probably doesn't make any sense to you now if you didn't get it. But hopefully when I explain what the pictures were, it will. So photo number 1, I'll give you the answers first, then I'll tell you who our winner was. Photo number 1 was of a Chinese statue above the Great Movie Ride sign at the Chinese theater located at the Disney MGM Studios. And again, it was kind of one of these obscure things, but that was where the clue was for. Not everything that's Chinese can be found in China. Man's Chinese theater, not China, but there you go. Picture number 2 was of an elephant statue, and that was in the water, and that was over at Shrunken Ned's Junior Jungle Boats. That's right next to the Jungle Cruise. That's where for about 50 cents you can kind of man the wheel and be the skipper of your own little kind of miniature Jungle Cruise radio-controlled boat. That one ended up proving to be a little tricky too. A lot of people thought that was in Asia, maybe on Kali River Rapids, somewhere else in Asia in Disney's Animal Kingdom. But picture number 3, most people got right, and that was of the clock tower in the Germany Pavilion in Epcot. And some of you actually thought It's a Small World, and a couple other interesting ideas. But that was in the plaza that overlooks the St. George's Plaza in Epcot's World Showcase. So we did receive a number of people that had all 3 correct entries, and the winner that was chosen at random from all the correct entries kind of had a good idea that he was going to win, because he said thanks in advance for the prizes, and he was kidding, of course, but he did win, and that was Matt Roche, and he won the Magic for Less gift pack with the backpack and the neck wallet, as well as a bunch of other things in there, or he can win the 2 copies of the Walt Disney World Trivia books. Matt, just do me a favor, send me over your information, where I can send your prizes to and what you prefer. So that's it. That was our first Where in the World Have You Seen This contest. We're going to do some more of these, as well as go back to our Where in the World Have You Heard This contest in upcoming weeks. Don't forget, we also have the Marathon Challenge contest, which is going to be going on for the next 13 weeks. So there's a lot of fun events going on, a lot of fun contests. So make sure you keep on checking back and stay tuned for more. You may have heard me talk about the Disney World Trivia Dream Team project in the past, and maybe not known what I was really talking about. Well, what really started out as a simple name that I gave to my efforts to raise money to help send pediatric cancer patients to Walt Disney World has grown to be so much more than that. I started out by and continue to take a portion of the proceeds from the sale of my books and donated it towards the cause. But the past 2 years have really become something special. And that's really due in large part to the idea and efforts of so many people who have donated to the project, and especially thanks to the volunteers who've helped this turn into something even more and beyond what I ever could have expected. And in fact, thanks to the idea and the efforts of my next guest, we've really been able to accomplish some wonderful things and bring some of the Disney magic to some children that really need it. I want to welcome to the WDW radio show Pat Whitson from DisneyWorldTrivia.com.
Hi, Lou. Thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, Pat, thank you. Pat is the person who really came up with the idea of taking the Dream Team efforts to the next level, and she suggested that we hold a fundraising auction at Fred Block's Magic Meet event last year. Fred was very kind enough to give us the time and the space and the resources to hold the event, and really thanks to the overwhelming donations of Disney items from people really around the globe, including a one-of-a-kind piece of original artwork from Disney artist Brian Blackmore and the tireless efforts of the volunteers that gave their time and efforts. We were able to raise enough money to grant the wishes of 2 children and send them to Walt Disney World, thanks to the help of the Starlight Starbright Foundation.
Yes, that was a wonderful experience for a first time out trying to do this. I really have to say, though, the idea actually it's all Kelly's fault. She was the one who started talking to me with the idea about a Chinese auction that they were having for her alumni association, and she casually said, "Gee, wouldn't it be great if we could do something for the Dream Team this way?" And I said, "I'll talk to Lou." And then you said yes, and she said, "I can't make it to the Magic Meet." So the efforts from last year, yes, I spearheaded the idea, but it definitely was a team effort. And this year again, also, it is a huge team effort that it definitely goes around. We have people over in the UK who have sent us things, all across the country who have sent donations, and it's just been such an exciting process to be a part of.
Yeah, and we're just blessed to be surrounded by so many people who volunteer not only, donations, but their time during the auctions. And Pat, this year you're again, the Dream Team auction coordinator. Fred has once again generously given us space in the main ballroom this year at the sold-out Magic Meet event in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania on July 14th for our second annual auction. Pat, you and the volunteers have already been hard at work preparing for this year's event, really for some time now, kind of almost immediately after last year's event ended. What's been kind of going on behind the scenes?
Well, behind the scenes, we did immediately after the meet ended, everybody says, "What are we going to do next year?" And we said, "At least give me a week to recover." The bulk of the work started just after the new year this year, when we sat down and actually online sat down and talked to each other, came up with a list of suggested theme baskets, things that we wanted to do that were a little different than last year's efforts, what worked best last year, what didn't work so well. So we took into account a lot of feedback to make this year's event even better than last year's. And we've been working since then, collecting donations, packaging them into assorted lots, a lot of theme baskets with many different items in each basket, collectibles, other special items, and preparing everything so that we have a very well-organized and smoothly run event at the Magic Meet, which, again, we are very grateful to Fred Block for the space. He's given us a much larger area this year, and for which we're very grateful, because, as you'll find out, we have much more to offer this year.
Yeah, and space and really time is at a premium at the Magic Meet, so we're lucky to have the opportunity. Tell us about some of the donations that we've got, some of the baskets that you guys have put together, because there's many of them, and they're pretty incredible, and run the gamut of different types of items.
They certainly do. We are currently sitting at about 115 different items there, and they vary from collectibles such as Walt Disney's Classic Collection figurines, brand new snow globes, historic documents, papers from the 20th anniversary of Walt Disney World, the 25th anniversary. We have toys and games, baskets for kids and adults who still act like kids, game night, Adventures of Peter Pan, all different.
That's mine. That one's mine. I'm just letting you know I'm bidding on that one. So
we have a wonderful, generous donation was made of a huge collection of Disney store beanies, the original plush beanies when they first started coming out and were such the craze. We've got things to make your trip to Walt Disney World more fun. We've got some travel lots. There's a portable DVD player and a movie library to keep entertained in the car or on the plane. We've got holiday items. We have a beautiful handcrafted Mickey head wreath. Pin collectors, there's stuff for you. There's jumbo pins, there are pin frames, super jumbo Pirates of the Caribbean Adventures in the Seven Seas Lagoon. Incredible pin in a case. That one's got, my eye.
Yeah, they're definitely, we had kind of a little auction wrap party a few weeks ago, and And you can see some of us were kind of drooling over specific baskets. But what we'll do, Pat, is we'll put a link up in the show notes because we have pictures of most of the auction lots up in the forums over at DisneyWorldTrivia.com, so you can take a look and see. Now, we should kind of just make it clear that unfortunately or fortunately the meet is sold out, so the only way you can bid on these is if you're attending the meet. But for those of you that are coming, kind of gives you an idea of what's to come. And for those of you who maybe didn't get in this year, this is something to look forward to. Hopefully, if you make it, to Harrisburg again next year, because like you said, it does run the gamut. There's smaller ticket items and bigger ticket items, and there's artwork, and people in the Disney community, whether they be other webmasters and authors and things like that, have donated so generously, and everything that we have here was all through donations that you're able to obtain, and there's some of those items are very unique. I know you're putting together something with one of the speakers at the Magic Meets, which is something that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yes, there is something in the works. I can't reveal all the details about it right now, but a certain author who likes to find hidden things has...
Oh, that's not too much of a big secret.
Without naming names, has offered a very, very exciting lot, and something that will be a big ticket item. So if this is piquing your interest, be prepared, because it is something that is going to be a truly unique opportunity.
Yeah, it's an experience. It's not just a little signed book or anything. It's something pretty unique. And this person, I wonder who we're talking about, was very, very kind in what he's going to do. So yeah, we'll kind of tease that a little bit more, just for the meet itself. But the other thing we should probably talk about, Pat, is what this is going to benefit, what the Dream Team Project actually does. In the past, the Dream Team Project has worked with the Starlight Starbright Children's Foundation, with the New York, New Jersey, Connecticut chapter, in granting the wishes of children to go to Walt Disney World. Unfortunately, they no longer do that. They no longer participate in the wish granting program. So this year, our efforts will be to benefit the Make-A-Wish Foundation of America. And we should also be very clear that 100% of the proceeds, everything that we take in, does go right to the charity.
Yes, that's correct. Everything has been donated. Every item has been donated, and every dollar that we collect is going to Make-A-Wish.
Yeah, this started out really, this is something very personal to me because of experiences I've had in my family, with people that have suffered with cancer, and experiences at Sloan Kettering, and that's kind of where I got the idea from. And I'm really happy to be able to, support the Make-A-Wish Foundation and do it this way, because they are such a trusted and such a reputable organization, and the work that they do with Disney and making these wishes come true is really something special. And I'm going to put a link up in the show notes page. You can go over to DisneyWorldTrivia.com/dreamteam for more information to find out about what we're doing. We've also set up a donation page. If you want to donate anything to the Dream Team Project to benefit Make-A-Wish, we have a page over at firstgiving.com where you can go and make a secure donation. And remember, all that money, too, goes right into the First Giving thing. They then send that money over to Make-A-Wish to benefit these kids. So I'm really excited about the project, and I'm really very excited about what we've got planned for this year's auction. Like I said, it's going to be bigger, it's going to be better, and it's going to be a lot of fun this year.
It's going to be spectacular. Can I just give a little bit about the format of the auction and what people who are there should expect?
Sure.
Okay. It is a silent auction, which means that there will be a sheet in front of each item that if you're interested in bidding in, you write your name and the amount you're willing to bid right on that sheet, and the highest dollar at the end of bidding is the person who gets to buy the item. So very simple, very easy to get your bids in. This year, one thing that we did at Fred's request, as well as in response to the feedback that we received, there's going to be only a single round. All of our items will be out at one time. Last year, because of space and time, we did things in 25 lot increments, which was a little confusing. I know it wasn't the ideal situation. So this year we have everything all at once. So make sure when you arrive at the meet, you come on over, take a look, start placing your bids, and we will be making sure that bidding ends during a time when everybody's in the main ballroom, and the moment, I believe it's scheduled to end during dessert. So, have your piece of cake, come over, place your final bids, and we'll be able to announce the winning bids shortly after dessert.
Yeah, and this format is great because it's a lot of fun because you keep going back and you keep checking and kind of guarding your favorite items. But like you said, I think this year is going to be bigger. It's going to be better. Pat, last year, what was the approximate dollar figure that we were able to raise just from the auction?
From the auction, including the Brian Blackmore painting, we raised just over $3,800.
So yeah, that was far above and beyond anything I could have expected. And then my reaction of standing there agape and actually speechless, which, as we know for Lou, is very tough to do. No comments from the Peanut Gallery. I can't imagine what this year is going to be like. And Pat, again, I really need to thank you specifically, as well as everybody that volunteered, everybody that continues to donate their time and their efforts and their merchandise and monetary donations. Again, this has far exceeded anything I could have expected, and it means a great deal to me personally what everybody's done. So I'm looking forward to it. Thank you again. And again, I'm going to put links up in the show notes page where you can go. If you head on over to DisneyWorldTrivia.com, you can click on the link for Dream Team to find out more. And if you are coming to the Magic Meets in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, you're in for a special treat. Really looking forward to it. Pat Whitson, Disney Dame 2004, thank you again for everything. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you, Lou.
As I mentioned last week, this is the first of our 13-part Walt Disney World Half Marathon Challenge, where you get to play a new challenge every 2 weeks for a chance to win all kinds of great prizes, as well as get to name the respective mile marker during the Walt Disney World Half Marathon in January, which I will supposedly be running in. You're also going to be able to get a custom certificate suitable for framing to congratulate you for your efforts. Also, as part of the contest, Eric Hollister, owner of GeoMouse.com, is generously donating $100 per mile to the DisneyWorldTrivia.com Dream Team project to benefit the Make-A-Wish Foundation of America. And I want to welcome Eric to the very first of our marathon challenges.
What's going on, Lou? How you doing?
I'm doing good. I am excited about this, and like I said on last week's show, Eric, this was your great idea, and I think this is going to be a lot of fun for us. I think it's going to be a lot of fun for the listeners, and your incredibly generous donation is really going to go to a good cause.
Well, and when you say 13, it really doesn't sound like that much. So, I mean, it should just make the race flow smoothly.
Oh, sure. Again, let's not talk about my training or lack thereof. But anyway, the other thing I forgot to mention too, Eric, was at the end of the contest, we're going to have a drawing of all the 13 winners for a yet-to-be-announced grand prize, which, well, I guess it's just going to be, grand.
Do you think we could sell them on the fact that the winner of that grand prize challenge will get to run in the 2009 full marathon? How about that for
the Goofy Race and a Half Challenge?
Exactly. So there might be a lot of listeners that are just like, I'm not participating in this challenge. What are they trying to pull?
Exactly. So yeah, what we plan to do is we're going to do a challenge every 2 weeks. So this challenge number 1 is going to start on July 1st. The end date is going to be July 11th, and then the next week after we will start the next challenge. So you definitely have to try and keep up on your shows so you can participate and get your answers in. And the first challenge is going to be the Walt Disney World Trivia Challenge. And what I've done is I've put together a list of 3 Walt Disney World trivia questions for you to answer. Now, they're not all the challenges are not going to be trivia questions. We're going to involve some other friends of the show, and there's going to be all different types of challenges. But this is what we're going to do to kind of kick things off. So all you have to do is send your guesses and your designated name of the mile marker. So in case you win, tell us what you'd like to name your first mile for the half marathon, and send them via email to marathon@wdwradio.com. We'll put all the correct submissions in a random drawing. We'll pull after the end date of the challenge, and we'll obviously announce them on the show on the week of July 15th.
Absolutely.
And let's talk about some of the prizes, the oh-so-valuable prizes they can win for the first of the marathon challenge.
Exactly. It's all about the prizes.
That's right. Well, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, go for it, Lou.
All right. We have signed and personalized valuable copies of the Walt Disney World Trivia Books, Volume 1 and 2, a DisneyWorldTrivia.com shirt, pin, lanyards. We also have 2 non-Disney World Trivia related items donated by you, so why don't you go ahead and tell us what else is part of the prize package?
Sure. Well, if anybody's been living under a rock for the last month, I'm sure most of us are familiar with the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. So we've got both the Jack Sparrow and Davy Jones bobblehead dolls that will be a part of this prize package as well.
Cool. And like I said, don't forget, send your entries into marathon@wdwradio.com and name your mile. Pick your name mile. Keep it clean, folks. Family-friendly podcast. So, all right, let's go ahead and ask the 3 questions, and let's get this challenge started. What do you say?
Sounds like a plan.
All right, the first question for the Walt Disney World Trivia Challenge for mile marker number 1 is, what is the name of the warden in the Kilimanjaro Safari? Number 2, name the 2 corporations that once sponsored Space Mountain, and you must name them both. And the third and final question, and these hopefully aren't too hard, is what award does Professor Wayne Zelinsky receive? And you obviously have to know where that's from so you can tell us what award he received. So what do you think, Eric? Are those worthy of a challenge?
Absolutely. So all submissions must be into the email address marathon@wdwradio.com by 11:59 on July 11th, and that's Eastern Standard Time. And we will go ahead, and all correct submissions we will pool together and randomly draw a winner.
Cool. And yeah, we'll obviously put the names and the name of the mile markers. We'll keep a running list. We're going to give you a certificate with both of those. We're also going to post them on the WDWradio.com website as well as the GeoMouse website.
Absolutely.
And you are getting, day by day, you're inching closer, getting ready to launch. Is that correct?
I think I am on the Lou Mangello half marathon training when it comes to no, I'm just joking. No, we are still moving forward. August 1st, we should be up and running. If for some reason we're not, I'll be sure to update everybody accordingly. But if you wanted to go to geomouse.com, we will have all the information and rules for this first challenge along with the prizes that will be a part of it. So at the very least, you can go there and read over the rules and the challenges themselves along with listening to it on this podcast.
Excellent. And again, Eric, thank you very much for the idea. Thank you for the donation of the bobbleheads as well as the $100 per mile challenge. And again, that's going to go to the DisneyWorldTrivia.com Dream Team project. That's going to benefit the Make-A-Wish Foundation. For more information on what we're doing, and if you want to make a donation, you can head on over to DisneyWorldTrivia.com/Dream Team. There you can also find a link to the secure firstgiving.com website where you can make your donations directly there. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm happy we got this thing kicked off. And good luck, everybody.
Absolutely. Good luck.
To start off this week's email segment, I want to read to you a couple of emails that aren't really questions but more comments from listeners, as I got a flurry of emails about the discussion and comments about gadgets in the parks. The first comes from Chris Raynack, who says, "Love the show and all the trivia. I was listening to last week's podcast when I heard you read the email from the listener who thought it would be great to have content, wait time info, and other Disney trivia downloaded to a PDA or some other type of device. I agree with you that kids staring down at screens would take away from the family Disney experience that Walt had intended. But as you were reading the email, something came to mind that the Imagineers at Disney have already created that I believe serves the purpose without the pitfalls. Pal Mickey. We picked up one of these for my daughter last year at the Magic Kingdom, and my kids were thrilled with it, as were we. It told us everything from shortcuts to take through the parks to short wait lines and trivia information. I became so fascinated by the device that I looked up information on how it worked, enjoying tech-type things myself. I was amazed that the Imagineers had gone to such lengths to discreetly place transmitters throughout the park to communicate with Mickey and keep you up to date on what was going on. When we go back to Disney, he will sure to go with us. Best regards, Chris." Chris, you're right. I completely forgot to mention Pal Mickey. He is basically a Mickey Mouse plush that does have some electronics inside, and as you walk through the park and from different attractions, he'll talk to you about trivia for some of the things. He'll also do some other kind of interactive things, and he'll tell jokes and things like that. And he runs about $65. You can also rent them. I believe you still can rent them. You can also purchase them throughout all the parks. But you're right, it's very different than actually having to look down and stare at a screen as opposed to carrying Pal Mickey around that everybody can enjoy in the family. I received one other email, and this came from Armando in Juarez, Mexico, who writes, Lou, I'm a new listener and congratulate you on a fine podcast. I just finished listening to show 19, where you discuss the new features for the Nintendo DS if you bring it to the Magic Kingdom and download extra content. I have to agree with you 120%. I hate going to the parks and seeing families together, but each member plugged into something and really not together. I'm positive that if Walt was still with us, he would even ban cell phones at the park and only have designated areas for use on their property. Kids nowadays don't know how to have a conversation unless it's with their fingers or on a cell phone. I remember not long ago when vehicles didn't have DVD players or iPods or anything. You were lucky if they had a crummy FM radio. I'm the father of 3 boys and I get furious every weekend that we go into the SUV and the kids immediately want the DVD fired up. I agree with you that they're fine for the long plane trip or long car trips. Last year we took a trip down to Walt Disney World and agreed to ban any gadget once we got on site, and even the cell phones were turned off. I cannot tell you how different our trip was. I enjoyed the boys and my wife tremendously. So now every time we take a trip down, once we arrive at our destination, we will be gadget-free. Thanks for the hard work, Armando. Armando, thank you. And again, these 2 emails were indicative of an overwhelming number of emails I got about this. And many of you mentioned Walt Disney specifically, that you didn't think that that's really what Walt would have wanted, because he did want people to go together as family and enjoy family time together, and having people staring down or have kids staring down at the Nintendo DSs or other devices would kind of defeat that purpose. I also got an email from Bruce from magicalthemeparks.com. I'll put a link up in the show notes. Who says, Hi Lou, I was listening to your latest podcast when you spoke about the juggler from the Hunchback pre-show at the Disney MGM Studios. I believe I have a video of him on my site. He gives me a link over at Magical Theme Parks in case any of you wanted to see exactly who we were talking about. Again, I'll put that up in this week's show notes. And I want to thank Bruce from magicalthemeparks.com for sharing that with us. Next email says, Have you ever tried the chef's table over at Victoria and Albert's? I've been trying for the longest time to get a reservation. My wife and I are going for 11 days in September and 8 days in December. We went last September and February as well. Every time I book a vacation, I wait exactly 180 days before I arrive, start calling every morning at 7 a.m. to try and book the chef's table. 180 days before my first day I call, and then I call back the next morning, because that's 180 days before my second day, and so on. I have never been able to score a reservation, though. The cast member says somebody just beat me to it every single time. Just wondering if anybody knows some secret way to get the popular table. Love the podcast, especially the rumor mill. That's from Ryan in Manchester, New Hampshire. Ryan, thank you for the email, and yes, you are talking about probably the hottest dining ticket at Walt Disney World. Yes, even more so than Cinderella's Royal Table for breakfast, simply because the chef's table is a single table at the very exclusive Victoria and Albert's restaurant at Disney's Grand Floridian Resort and Spa. Now, this is something I'll likely cover in another segment, either a best of the best or a not-so-hidden treasure of Walt Disney World, because this dining experience is truly one of the finest on Disney property and one of the finest that you may have anywhere at any kind of restaurant, even outside of Walt Disney World. Again, this is located at the Victorian-themed Grand Floridian. The restaurant is exquisite, and the chef's table is a very unique dining experience because it's actually in the kitchen of Victoria and Albert's, and it's not like you're eating in the kitchen, but there's a little side dining area off there, and they have a fixed price dinner that runs about $115. If you pair it with wines, it's about $160. Basically what happens is that there are only 2 seatings for Victoria and Albert's at the chef's table. There's ones at 5:45 through 6:30 and at 9 through 9:45. It's a very formal restaurant. Gentlemen actually have to wear jackets. Ties are optional, but you can't even go in business casual. You actually have to wear a jacket. And again, the chef, Scott Hunnell, will actually come to the table. He'll talk to you about your individual likes and desires, as well as any kind of allergies and things like that. They'll have a royal wine pairing that'll allow you to sample selections from their exquisite and extensive wine cellar that are paired with each course of the menu. You'll also meet the pastry chef, as well as the maitre d'. You'll get a personalized menu for each guest. Absolutely just a super dining experience. But yes, it is nearly impossible to get simply because there's only 1 table and 2 seatings. And as far as a secret to get the table, other than starting to call at 6:55 in the morning, I don't know if anybody else has had the experience or knows one of the best ways to try and get a reservation for Victoria and Albert's. By all means, please let us know. And after I make my reservation, I will share it with everybody else. Next email comes from Ken Simeone in Wilton, Connecticut. I also received similar emails to this one from Joe Hurley, Ann Mack, Franklin, and Mario. And Ken basically asked, he said, several years ago we purchased a brick in front of the Magic Kingdom. It seems that there is not anyone maintaining them. So I'm not sure if there was an expiration date on them. Do you know if these bricks are for life or do they expire? Well, technically, Ken, Joe, Ann, Frank, and Mario, the bricks technically can be taken away after, I believe, 10 years. But from what I understand, there is no intent on Disney's part to do so. And from what I also have seen too, when bricks do get broken, they are still being fixed and or replaced. So they won't just take it out and put a blank brick in there. They are actually replacing the brick with the same type of engraving. So, but remember too that if Disney did want to, based on the agreement that you signed when you did purchase your brick, if Disney decided to take them out after that contractually agreed upon period of time, they could. I don't think they're going to do it. I think they're really something very unique and something that allows all of us that actually have a brick to feel as though we're connected to and a part of Walt Disney World somewhere, even though we actually technically don't own it. Next email reads, Lou, my husband and I are longtime annual pass holders who recently moved to Tampa, Florida from New York. We generally avoid the parks during the busy holiday time, but this year, since we're so close, we decided to visit Walt Disney World on the 4th of July. We know it's going to be super crowded, but we're hoping it will be worth it to see the special 4th of July fireworks. Our plan is to arrive on July 3rd in the late afternoon and see the special fireworks at the Magic Kingdom that night. On the 4th of July, we want to see the 9 p.m. fireworks at the Disney MGM Studios, then rush over for the 10 p.m. showing of Illuminations. My questions are, A, do you think it's likely the Magic Kingdom will close early on July 3rd? We wouldn't be able to get there till about 5 or 6. In recent years, I know sometimes on the very busy days, it has closed after a certain point for capacity. I don't necessarily know if you'll have that problem on July 3rd. My guess would probably be not. Second is, do you think it's possible to watch the fireworks at the Disney MGM Studios and still get over to Illuminations before it starts? I know we won't get a prime viewing spot, just want to make it to World Showcase in time. That one might be a little bit tougher. The fireworks on the 4th over at the Disney MGM Studios will take place at 9 o'clock, and Illuminations is going to take place, like I said, at 10. You also asked for any recommendations on where to watch the fireworks at the studios. The natural choice is near the entrance, so we could make it out of the park quickly. That's probably what I would have said, but in case we decide not to try to get to Epcot, what's the best place? All right, well, first of all, trying to get from the studios to Epcot might be tough. If you do stand near the entrance, say the fireworks end at 9:20, by the time you maybe walk your way over, you might be cutting it close, assuming that they're actually still allowing people in through the International Gateway. You might very well be able to do it. Otherwise, you could also walk to the boardwalk, and at least you can see kind of the tops of the fireworks from there, but you might be able to get at least to the International Gateway to be able to see them. Now, notwithstanding you trying to get out of what will be a very, very crowded park that night, if you weren't going to try and make your way over, I'd say maybe try to stay to the left front of the Sorcerer Hat. And if you're going to stay, that's a great place to stay just to view it. And if you're not and do want to try and get out, you might be able to kind of, hurry through the stores instead of trying to walk down Hollywood Boulevard to the exit. Maybe you can get a water taxi over to Epcot. But again, I think that's going to be real tough just because of the amount of the crowds and the time you're talking about. And she finishes up by saying, I listen to about a dozen Disney podcasts, but enjoy yours by the most far. Thank you. I really appreciate the time and effort you put into every week's show. Thank you, Shannon in Tampa. Shannon, thank you for the email, and best of luck. Let me know how it goes, what you decide to do on July 4th. Next email reads, Lou, I really enjoy your podcast and look forward to hearing it every week. I think it's clearly one of the best Disney podcasts out there, and it's the first one I listen to each and every week. I hadn't been to Walt Disney World for years, and when I first returned on a trip in 2005, I was sort of unhappy to see the flying carpets smack dab in the middle of what I remembered being a nice, wide-open plaza in Adventureland. Am I not the only person that thinks Disney made a mistake dropping this ride right in the middle of Adventureland? I seem to remember years ago when I could sit down by a counter service near the Tiki Room and enjoy a cold beverage and do a little people watching. Now not only is my nice plaza gone, but they've created a serious traffic bottleneck. And this doesn't even get into the merits of the ride, which I think is a typical Midway ride at best. What were they thinking when they added this ride? And shouldn't it really be in Fantasyland? Why do you think they felt the need to add the ride? Well, that's enough venting. It's Disney World after all, so I know I can't really complain. After all, my kids like the ride, and no doubt I'll be riding it in a few weeks It's actually a pretty good ride at nighttime. Take care, and that comes from Joe. Joe, I think you make some valid points, and we all know what a nostalgic guy I am, and I feel the same way about how that changed the landscape and the kind of the look and the feel of Adventureland. And while I think some people might say that it was all out taking advantage of a wildly popular film franchise at the time, I was actually a huge fan, I still am, of Aladdin myself. I think it also has to do with offering something in Adventureland for young children, not only to help the kids and parents, but for crowd flow as well, because there really isn't very much there for young kids to do. You know, Pirates of the Caribbean may be too scary for some. The treehouse is boring, and it's tough if you have, especially if you have young kids that you have to walk through or carry on. Kids can get fidgety in line. The Jungle Cruise boats, they might not sit through, they certainly might not sit through the Enchanted Tiki Room. So a simple, fun attraction with bright colors and familiar characters and music and the spitting camels may be very, very appealing to young kids, and that might be why it's there. It was also very inexpensive for Disney. It's a very simple ride mechanism, simple for them to build and inexpensive for them to build. However, like I said, many purists still do think it ruins the landscape. But I say to try and actually turn that around. Try and look to the enhancements to the landscape that are brought in instead of looking at it the other way around. You know, look at the jewels in the ground. Listen to the music as you walk by. How the transitional theming of the land as you go out of the Swiss Family Treehouse and start making your way walking around. Look at the changes in the shops and around the shops. Look at the pavement. Listen, like I said, to the music, and look at the outside architecture, and really kind of get that feeling and that sense that you have entered Agrabah, at least until you get to the back end and get back towards the Enchanted Tiki Room. Hey Lou, this comes from Nate. This is a follow-up message to the Walt Disney World suggestion box idea from show number 14 on May 13th, 2007. That was submitted by listener Ryan from Houston, aka Maestro34. I wish there was a bi-coastal annual pass offered for both Walt Disney World and Disneyland. Personally, as an East Coaster, I've had occasions when I've considered the purchase of a Disneyland annual pass during visits to California, but haven't gone for it due to the uncertainty of knowing whether or not I'd get all the way back there in a given year. Knowing that I'm holding an annual pass would give me a stronger push to make that happen. But as it is, Walt Disney World's much closer to my home, and I'm much more likely to simply maintain that annual pass and not go to California so often. I've got a number of West Coast-based friends who are in the opposite situation, and again, that comes from Nate. Nate, I have to imagine that there's probably not a huge percentage of Disney fans that go to both, Disneyland and Walt Disney World on a really regular basis, or at least maybe semi-regular basis. But I actually received probably 5 or 6 similar emails this week asking about Disneyland and Walt Disney World and the possibility of bi-coastal annual passes and how the Disney Vacation Club might factor into this if Disneyland builds a Disney Vacation Club membership. And the overwhelming consensus seems to be that if there was this kind of pass, it really would be a strong incentive for guests to go back and forth. And someone actually called it park leaping as kind of opposed to park hopping. And I seem to agree. I think it really, having that pass might actually motivate me and other people to try and get out to Disneyland more often than we would otherwise, knowing we'd have to go out and buy individual tickets for each day that we went to the park. I received another email suggestion from a listener who says, "My family and I just got back from our 5th trip to Walt Disney World. We love visiting WDW but have a critical comment for the mouse. On almost every trip we experience room key park ticket problems. Cast members have reported that electronic devices can interfere and demagnetize these cards. Most visitors have cell phones, wireless radios, cameras, video cameras, pagers, MP3s, etc. on their person. I've also been told by cast members that WDW purchases cards that have lower magnetic fidelity. It could be a real pain to make repeat trips to guest services to get a new card. Also, on our last trip, the cards worked at the entrance turnstiles but would not work in the FastPass machines. Look at the PhotoPass system and the 2-dimensional barcode on the PhotoPass card. Why not go to a similar system for park tickets? I'd be interested to know the failure rate on the PhotoPass cards, versus the magnetic stripe on the tickets. Or, better yet, just buy a better quality magnetic card media. I'd gladly pay more for a card that could be relied upon. Keep up the good work, and please bring this up next time you have dinner with Bob Iger, haha." And that comes from John Keeler. John, thank you very much for the email. This has been a long-standing complaint among guests that there is a relatively high failure rate among the swipes and the cards, and especially with annual pass holders. And it's always been begging the question, why do people that stay at resorts and have their Key to the World cards get a plastic card, yet an annual pass holder that will likely use it more times during the year than the person who's there for a 3, 4, 7-day trip only get those kind of flimsy paper cards that once they get wet or once they get bent need to be replaced. I've gotten a variety of different answers, everything from the amount of information that needs to be stored on the magnetic strips versus the cost of the cards versus the paper cards. Nothing ever really seemed to be a sufficient answer, but I think your idea about the barcode on the card is very, very good. And my only question is, I don't know if the information on those strips ever gets updated. I'm kind of out of my element here talking about it. If somebody has a better idea of exactly what goes on and what's put on and off the card, and if that barcode system would work, by all means let me know. But I as an annual pass holder, I know would love to see the hard plastic cards, and you're right, some sort of system to make the cards a little bit more reliable and a little bit more durable. Our final email this week comes from Holly P., who writes, on one of your past shows you mentioned about Epcot turning 25 this year, and that got me to start running down memory lane. I found old photos of Epcot in its early year, and even found a tape of me doing the green screen Dreamfinders School of Drama. While my memories of certain portions of the park are clear, there are a few that are foggy. My question is actually a two-part question, both dealing with Communicore and interventions. First, my mom claims that there used to be a place in the Communicore building where a robot would look at you and then sketch your picture. She claims to have this picture somewhere, but I can't remember that at all. If it was in Epcot, where was it, and what time period did it exist? Again, I had hoped to get to this email last week. We did cover this in our Communicore segment, but you're right, it actually was in Communicore, and if you do have that picture, I would love to see a copy of it and just kind of give an example of exactly the kind of picture the robots were able to draw. Second, I have this weird memory of around the time Communicore got a huge makeover, walking into one of the buildings and there being row after row of video game systems. I remember being so excited, as video games were never allowed in my house, but when I asked my mom about this, she doesn't seem to remember it being there. Love the show, look forward to listening to future podcasts, keep up the awesome work. Again, that's from Holly. Holly, you're right, and many times throughout Communicore and now Interventions history, there have been video game systems, and actually in Interventions right now, on that road to tomorrow, there is a section of the wall which is pretty much lined up with Sega video game consoles. It's right near the Segway thing, and where you can get the character photo with the if you have a Disney Visa, you can get the character photo spot. But it's funny because you mentioned the Dreamfinders School of Drama, and that's something I had forgotten about for a long, long time. And that was actually over at the ImageWorks, and that was on the second floor when there actually was an operating second floor over at the Imagination Pavilion. And it was in the ImageWorks, which they called a creative playground of the future, and they had all these very, very cool interactive exhibits. And one of them was the Dreamfinders School of Drama. And basically, like you said, through the green screen or chroma key video, you would act out a couple of different, a variety of different scenes. And it could be anything from westerns or science fiction or fantasy films, things like that. They were called things like The Daring Deputies and The Return of Sagebrush Sam, Acrobatic Astronauts and Galactic Getaway, and Enchanted Travelers, Wily Wizard, and The Cranky Kings. And you would basically act this out, and I guess they were able to give you a videotape of it. I remember being up there and wanting to get picked as a kid to act in one of these things, but there was a lot of stuff up in ImageWorks. There was the stepping tones and the sensor maze and the pin tables, which I thought were very cool. And we're going to do a piece on Imagination as part of our Epcot retrospective series, where we'll talk about this some more. But thanks for bringing back that memory of something I hadn't thought about in a long time, which was the School of Drama, and hope that we were able to answer your questions and bring back some memories for you last week on the Communicore segment. And remember, if you have a question, comment, something you want to talk about, by all means, please send me an email. You can send that over to lou@wdwradio.com. If you also want to call and leave a voicemail, you can leave that at 206-202-4WDW. Thank you again for tuning in this week, and I hope you enjoyed the show. I want to thank Jeff Pepper, Pat Whitten, Eric Hollister, and Brian Ripper for coming on the show and helping out. Be sure to visit 2719hyperion.blogspot.com, geomouse.com, and allaboutthemouse.com, as well as the DisneyWorldTrivia.com Dream Team Project page. You can find links to these sites, as well as many others, photos, and more information about the topics that we discussed on the show, as well as the new WDW Radio Show merchandise shop, where you can pick up your new shirts and more over at WDWradio.com. For more information about the Dream Team project or to make a donation using our secure page at firstgiving.com, you can visit the homepage of WDWradio.com or DisneyWorldTrivia.com. In just 2 days, we've amassed almost $1,200 already in donations, and I want to thank you all for your help and support. Don't forget that if you're planning a Disney vacation, please also visit our friends at the Magic for Less Travel for a free, no-obligation quote. I give them my highest recommendation due to their free service, commitment to outstanding personal service, and giving you the best possible prices and discounts. Visit the WDWradio.com website for a link over to the Magic for Less Travel. On upcoming shows, I have more fun Disney scene investigations with Jeff Pepper, vacation planning information with the help of some other special guests, more trivia, your email, our ongoing contests, fact or fiction, more of the 7 Wonders of Walt Disney World, and so much more. Don't forget that I still want the show to continue to be interactive, so please email me at lou@wdwradio.com or call the voicemail at 206-202-4WDW. Come by our fun and friendly forums at DisneyWorldTrivia.com for discussions about all things Disney, and of course, if you like the show, please help spread the word. Your votes for the show and reviews on iTunes continue to be very, very helpful and very much appreciated, so thank you very much. Thank you very much again for tuning in this week. I really appreciate you coming back and listening. Have a fantastic week. See ya!
Hey Lou, it's Kevin John. I am sitting in an airport in Myrtle Beach. My flight has been delayed for like 4 or 5 hours. And I just got done listening to the iPod section, or the podcast section on the Dino Land from the Father's Day episode. And man, I'll tell you, it just blew my mind. I mean, I've always loved that section of the park, but you guys just did such a great job of giving all the backstory. I just look at it so differently now. I can't wait to get home and tell my wife about the backstory and everything about the podcast. So please keep that kind of stuff coming. I mean, that really in-depth detail that most people take for granted. We try to get as much detail and take our time through the parks when we are there, and I think we do kind of stop and smell the roses a little bit more than other people. But man, you guys just went nuts with that, and just really loved it. Made my my stay here in the Myrtle Beach Airport even that much more pleasant. So thank you very much, and keep it coming, brother. You take care. Bye-bye.
Hey, Lou, it's me, John, from Mouse Times, and I'm just listening to your show. Just wanted to let you know when Jeff Pepper was talking about the shuttle launch in September of '88, September or December of '88. It was actually the Space Shuttle Discovery, and it was the first launch after the Challenger. Columbia was in 2003. Challenger was in 1986. So, just wanted to. I'm surprised you actually didn't know that. So, yeah, just wanted to inform you on that. Okay. So I'll see you later, and I'm enjoying the show. Oh boy, do I miss Epcot back in the day. Talk to you later, man. Bye-bye.
Hey, Lou and podcasters. This is the Bonham family from Greenwood, South Carolina. We're spending our first day here at Walt Disney World. We're at the Magic Kingdom, and Lou's favorite ride, such as Great Escape queue line. Get ready to go in. And just want to let you know we're having a wonderful time. Our 13-month-old son had his first visit to Walt Disney World and saw Mickey earlier today. Gave him a big kiss on the nose, and the picture is wonderful. I just want to say hey to everybody, and Lou, thanks for the great work. Keep it up. Bye.
What is it that makes us Disney fans? Is it our love of the parks? Our love of the movies? Or is it just all about the mouse? Next week, the All About the Mouse Disney podcast welcomes a new co-host for more magic, more laughter, and more Disney. Jonathan Dichter joins the All About the Mouse Disney podcast starting July 6th, 2007. Only at www.allaboutthemouse.com.